the other big piece of what we really intentionally did is I opened up a really open dialogue, a really open communication with my son from the get-go. And so we do talk about the things that are working or not working. And at 10, 11, 12, now 13 years old, he was very clear on the fact that I'm new to this. I don't know how to be a step parent, and he doesn't know how to be a stepson. And we're learning together, and we talk about that. And I mean, often. And that's something we've done from the start. It's something that has helped him and I so much, because when he's feeling big emotions about me or about how I fit there, we can talk and we can adjust, and vice versa. When I'm feeling the big feelings, we can talk about it and it's okay.
I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married with children.
It's been 12 years since we got this gang together.
And we're still running the rapids of living with a blended family.
And sometimes that is just not easy.
If you're looking for support and tools when it comes to divorce, step parenting, co-parenting, and giving it your best,
you're in the right place.
We're talking about everything.
You ready to get this party started?
Always. Hello, listeners. Guess what? Today, I have a guest that I met on Instagram. Actually, I'm meeting a whole bunch of crazy, cool, awesome people on Instagram and on our community. And I'm so glad that we started it, because there's so many brilliant minds that are stepmoms, that are co-parenting, that have gone through divorce, that are doing the whole blended family thing. And you all are amazing. And so I get really excited when I get to start chatting with you via Instagram. And then you get to come on my podcast. So that's what happened with today's guest. Her name is Melissa Wilson, and she's just awesome. She has a really great page that you can follow at melissa.rae, and then it's RAE, and then it has a little underscore at the end. You can find the link in the show notes. But she's just like so transparent about her life as a stepmom. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have her on the show. And she was like, yes, I'll do it. So she's got all kinds of cool things that she does. She happens to be a certified fitness trainer. She's all into nutritional science and really cool things. But I just loved what she shares, and she knows some of the struggles and the challenges of, bonding with children who are older when you as a step parent are first introduced to them. And she knows what it's like to have different rules at their house as opposed to the co-parent's house. And she also knows what it's like to bring a new baby into the family. So there's a lot of cool things. I don't want to give it all away, but I'm talking to Melissa today, and she's going to share her story, her beautiful family, and I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this. There's so many great takeaways, and I just love her insight. And the big goal here is that I hope when people hear these stories that they're inspired, because I know that there's times where you can feel really frustrated. You can feel like you're alone in something. You can feel guilty about feelings that you're having towards your stepchild, or feelings that you're having towards your us baby. Her and her wife have a beautiful, beautiful little girl, and she does these well, I talk about it in the interview, so I'm not going to give it away. I can't give everything away. You just got to listen to it, and then make sure you listen to the end, because there's a little surprise at the end. So enjoy this interview, and as always, we love to hear your feedback. Melissa, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much, Summer.
Well, we're going to talk about a lot of good things today. But before we get into those meaty topics, can you share with us the story of your blended family, how you guys met, came together, and what the dynamic is? How many kids, all the ages, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite thing to talk about. So, this is a good start. So, my wife, her name is Tamara. Her and I met inadvertently. We didn't even really talk, but 8 years ago now, I want to say. And I was a general manager of a gym. She was a member at the gym, and she was just the biggest gym crush that I ever had. Yeah, so I, admired her from a distance for a few years. And 4 years ago, we finally met, started talking. Fast forward, we're married. We have a beautiful family. I have a 13-year-old stepson with her, and his name is Jaden. And then we just introduced the newest addition, which is our daughter Jessie, who was born just 9 months ago today,
Oh
actually.
my gosh.
Yeah, she's so sweet. I can't believe it's gone that fast, but 9 months ago.
Wow.
And yeah, that's the basis. So we've got Tamara, we've got Jessie, and we've got Jaden, and that's our beautiful little blended family.
So one of the things that's really big and can be hard is meeting kids at that older age. And I love to talk to other parents about this because when Mike and I met, our kids were really young. So there was, it was, I would say it's a bit easier, at least it seemed, from what I would imagine if they were older, because they were so little and they were able to just kind of blend together. I mean, trust me, it came with its own set of complications as they got older. But what was it like? So 10 years old when?
He was 10 years old when I met him. It was actually his 10th birthday. So I met him he had all his little friends over for his birthday party, and that was the first time I met him at that time as just his mom's friend that he got to meet. But yeah, I also talked to some stepmothers who have had their stepchildren since they were young, and it does come with its own set of problems, own set of obstacles, things that you need to work on, but it's just such a different experience from what I've been able to gather. I think the hardest part for me from the start, I think, was just finding my place with him. He has two parents. He's grown up with both of those parents. We co-parent with another family group with him, and he didn't need another mom.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think that was a really big challenge, was figuring out what is my place in this family when it comes to him. And so that took a long time. I feel like that still changes from time to time, what I'm supposed to be for him.
Right. And was there ever that feeling that, I mean, what was your relationship with him like early on? Was it kind of like, oh, who are you coming into my life? Or was he welcoming? Or are you even still, I mean, I know that, like you said, you're still figuring out, and it starts to grow in different ways as you get older. But what was it like at the very beginning?
Yeah, at the very beginning, he was very wary of me. He would get really defensive about things. It was a very distant relationship. I don't think that he was really ready to accept me as a parent figure right away. And I don't know if I was really ready to accept him as my child right away. So
Yeah.
it was a hard feeling, but the more time that we spent together, the more our family became more of a solid unit, and big things happened, right? Moving in together, getting engaged, getting married, those things, of course, helped to solidify that as well. But we kind of started to figure out our own version of what I was to him, just him and I, between nobody else. And I think that's really important as a building block, is having that be a mutual understanding between my bonus son and myself, versus it being a whole family arrangement that we've come up with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Okay, so this is like the big thing that I see happen. It's happened in our relationship is, when you're first dating and it's so awesome, right? And you're so in love and it's so exciting. And then when children are introduced, it starts to it can tax the relationship because there's different emotions going on. You're kind of wondering like how much can I step in? How much can I not? Or maybe I'm getting a little jealous of the time you're spending together because I thought we were going to go out this week. Things like that happen.
Yeah,
Did you
absolutely.
deal with any of that type of stuff? And how did you deal with it if you did?
Absolutely. I think I got really lucky in the partner that I have because we, had some little talks about it in the beginning, but she really allowed me to take the reins for myself. And I think that was really important because it meant that I didn't need to run things by her. I could set my own boundaries. I could build my own relationship in a way that I knew was working or not working for me and Jaden. And so that I think was one thing that was just crucial. I don't think I could have done it if I had to, or not as successfully, I guess, if I had to run everything through a second set of parents or my partner or things like that. And so allowing me to figure out how far do you want to go into his life, Melissa? How much of a parental role do you want to take? Do you want to have a disciplinary role, a role in school? Those things were all left up to me. And I think that made it easier on my relationship with my partner and easier on my relationship with our son.
Right. That is so mature and smart.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of people, sometimes a long time, to figure those things out, and you start searching everything. How do I do this? How do I do that? Am I trying to be too much of a parent? Am I not? How do I, and especially when it's new to you, and especially with, a child that's 10, that's older, it can be so overwhelming. I'm so impressed. Like, I'm impressed with you guys.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. No, I appreciate that so much. And it really has been an us thing. I will say the other big piece of what we really intentionally did is I opened up a really open dialogue, a really open communication with my son from the get-go. And so we do talk about the things that are working or not working. And at 10, 11, 12, now 13 years old, he was very clear on the fact that I'm new to this. I don't know how to be a step parent, and he doesn't know how to be a stepson. And we're learning together, and we talk about that. And I mean, often. And that's something we've done from the start. It's something that has helped him and I so much because when he's feeling big emotions about me or about how I fit there, we can talk and we can adjust, and vice versa. When I'm feeling the big feelings, we can talk about it and it's okay.
Right. And you said that you have a good co-parenting relationship with the other family.
We do. And we have our son for a week on and a week off. And it's really, they've been co-parenting together for quite a few years now, and they do a really good job of it. It's really pretty seamless. And I know I'm lucky there too.
Yes.
I know that I am. So
Well,
that
it is a
hasn't
choice
been.
though. It's a choice, I think, to really get to have that type of relationship of everyone, to really want it to be that, which I think is so important. And it's, it really sounds like you're putting your son first, which is amazing and the best gift.
Absolutely. And I think too, it's just about having the same shared goal. And we work different. We're two very different households with four very different parents. But at the end of the day, we all share the same dream of having a blended family that works for Jaden so that he doesn't ever have to feel torn or have struggles that he didn't need to have. Life has enough struggles, especially for a teenage boy.
Oh yeah.
And so even if we go about it different ways, even if there's little hiccups here and there, at the end of the day, he's the priority for all of us. And I can't be thankful for that enough.
Oh, that's so awesome. So when did you decide we're going to bring another little baby to the bunch?
We move fast. So we started trying for our daughter back in, 3 years ago now. It would have been. It was in 2018, just at the end of 2018. So I guess maybe not quite 3 years yet. However, we started IVF about that time, and that's a whole different story. But that wasn't something that we let our son know about until we had gone through a lot of it.
Yeah.
So that didn't start to become a thing in the family, not a known thing, until I was pregnant. And so that was a year and a couple of months ago when he got introduced to that idea of adding somebody else.
And what was his reaction?
He, so we also, I will add, there was an added piece to that. His other parents also got pregnant 2 weeks before us.
Oh, wow.
So he had already had one pregnancy announcement, and I think that is a lot for at the time 12-year-old to know that both homes were going from being an only child to having two other siblings.
Wow.
Yeah, so it took a minute. I don't think he knew what to do with that at first. I think even in a family where it's not blended and there's not that dynamic there, I think it's hard enough to go from a single to a multiple child household, but then add in the extra dynamics there of two households and then two babies.
Oh, of
That was
course.
a lot for him.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool though when I think, when you look at the big picture, like what a cool story.
It really is, and it worked out so great. And I mean, of course, there's a lot in between, but fast forward to now, I, walked by his room on the way over to talk to you, and he has a picture frame up of him holding both his brother from that house and his sister from this house. And
Oh,
even though it was definitely a trying time for our family, adding another one to the mix, it's turned out just beautifully. And he's an amazing big brother. He loves his siblings so much. And so at the end of the day, all is well.
yes. Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. So for you guys, how has that been, now having you've got two children, you have your us baby, right? How
Yeah.
has that been for your relationship?
Yeah. So mine and Jaden's relationship has never been through a harder point than right after I had this new baby, Jesse.
Yeah.
That was definitely a low point for us because we've always had the communication that I talked about, and that's always been so important. But all of a sudden when I had this new baby, and it always makes me feel guilty to know I was feeling this way, but I didn't want someone else's kid to take care of too. I just wanted mine. And
Yeah.
it hurts, puts my stomach in a knot to even say that, but it's the truth. And I think that it's a feeling that's a common thread from other women I've talked to, where it's hard when you want to give everything you have to this child that you just birthed and you just carried for however many months, but there's somebody else that you have to take care of too, and that you need to include in that. And that's really tough. Even as an adult, those feelings are hard to reconcile.
I'm so glad you're saying that because it is a tough thing I don't think you should feel guilty. They're real feelings, unless it's not like you're being cruel. It's just a real honest and probably natural feeling, to be honest. I mean, like you said, you birthed that child. So there's going to be a different feeling, a different type of love. And that is a common thing that happens with parents that, then they blend and then they have a child together. And then it's like, and it is. And, there are, in some cases, kids can feel that too, the like in your situation, your bonus son could have been, like, well, now I feel that. Did he go through that? Did he feel like I'm less important to you now?
Yeah, absolutely, actually. And I just go back and kick myself. I loved him. I never stopped loving him. But him and I did have a lot of conflict at that time. He was, I think building up some resentment towards me for coming in and changing up his family and taking attention that he's very much used to having and definitely needs. And I was resentful that I couldn't handle having my new child the way I wanted to. And it was, I mean, silly things too. Like I have to get dressed before I go downstairs now. I can't just stay in my underwear with this new baby all day, right? It
Right.
was silly things like that, but they were real things for me, and it was real for him too. I just remember specifically trying to have a movie night with him because I was going to make sure that he still got some attention from me. I was trying even though I was frustrated, and the baby started crying in the middle of the movie. It was supposed to be just a me and him time, and the baby started crying. And I said, "It's okay, we'll just pause the movie." And that little 12-year-old could not contain his frustration, and he pounded his face into the pillow, and he was making his little 12-year-old I'm angry noises. And man, I just remember I was gonna lose it. I said, she's a baby, she's gonna cry, it's my baby, it's okay if she cries. And I got
Yeah.
upset and I had to leave. And I think for us that was kind of when I realized that something needed to change. We needed to intentionally and proactively work towards something better than this, because we were both just too frustrated to have a good relationship at that point.
Yeah. No, and I think that's probably so normal. And I'm always curious about this because, Mike and I have our two kids that each have two kids that came together. And what's funny is that my two kids from me, on their dad's side, they have siblings, they have younger siblings. And my two kids from Mike, they don't have siblings on their mom's side. It's just the two of them. And they would always say, "Oh, Summer, please have a baby. You got to have a baby." And then my two kids would be like, "No, please don't. No, please don't."
Oh, how funny.
Because they had siblings on their side. So they would have that. And even though they adored their siblings, it was just kind of like they liked that they got to be, have all of my attention at our house. So they weren't having to share. And I always thought that was so interesting. I wonder what that dynamic would be like. But yeah, no, I imagine that there's so many things, there's so many feelings, and oh my gosh, it's like, I hate using this word because it sounds so negative, but there are complicated feelings that come with a blended family, because there's so many different types of relationships that are involved and different types of love that are happening. And it's so easy to feel like, wait, I'm not getting enough attention, or I don't like the way you're doing that, or what about me? There's so much of that going on.
Absolutely. And I just time and time again go back to the communication. Even I know he's young, and I know there's things that are, I do put my kid gloves on and make sure that it's all things that should be talked about with him. But just as much as I know that those big feelings are there, he does too.
Yeah.
He knows. And so to leave that as an elephant in the room and leave those unresolved and hope he figures it out on his own and I'll figure it out on my own, it never worked for us. The only thing that's ever brought us back together and helped us to build a positive relationship, which we very much do have, is being able to talk about those big feelings, and for it to be okay for him to have the negative, complicated ones too, even if they're directed at me. It's okay, and we can deal with that, but we have to be able to talk about it first.
Right. Definitely. It's always communication, always, always. And the more that you keep that stuff bottled up, the bigger the explosion is when you finally do release it.
No, it's so true. It's so true. And if we can catch things right away, and, because I'm also not a mind reader. And so if something's really not working for him, or something's bothering him, or he feels like he's missing something or needs something from me, I don't know that. I don't innately have this sense that just says, oh, Jaden needs, more space of his own, because he can always hear the baby and it's making it difficult for him to live his life. I don't know that unless he tells me. So making it okay for him to tell me, hey, I really need this, or hey, I'm having a hard time with this, that's made such a difference for us.
So yes, so important.
Have you ever wanted to send an anonymous message or letter to someone?
For me, the most powerful therapy has always been to write. If I feel angry, sad, super inspired, or just wanting to feel understood, I write, and often I write letters to someone when those feelings involve a particular person. When it comes to divorce, co-parenting, step-parenting, new relationships, and everything that comes along with blended families, there tends to be a lot we don't say and a lot we wish we could say. And it feels so good writing a letter as if you are going to send it to that person. It's like this huge pressure off of your chest. It's kind of cathartic. Well, we want to offer you that forum where you can have a voice. Anonymously, of course. If there's something you've always wanted to say to someone, but knew that out of respect or to save drama or because you knew it wouldn't be received well, now is your chance to get it out there and have it be read, because we would like to serve as your voice. So here's what to do. Head over to everythingalways.co/forum. That's FORUM, everythingalways.co/forum, and fill out the form. We won't know who you are, as it will be sent to us totally anonymously. It just hits our inbox, but we have no idea who it's coming from. As they come in, we will be sharing these on the podcast. We'll be able to reply to you. You'll still remain anonymous unless you reply back. And we'll let you know if it will be featured. It's 100% confidential. So what do you say? Ready to get it off your chest? Okay, back to the episode. Well, let's talk about you and your wife now. And how has your relationship grown? What kind of challenges did you guys face during all of this blending?
Absolutely. So it has definitely been a journey for my wife and I, because again, we're all new to this. Even now, I still feel like we're new to this. And when I told her that I was going to be doing this specific podcast, the first thing she said was, "Oh my gosh, well, you deserve to get to do that," because we really have been through some big things. It was difficult. I knew going into the relationship that she had a son, which meant that there was an ex and there was co-parenting and there was all those things that were going to go into it.
Yeah.
And, in some of our earlier hurdles, she would say things to me like, "But you knew you were getting into this. You can't be upset because you knew." And one thing we really had to sit and kind of know between us is that I might have known, but you don't know until you're really in it what that's going to look like exactly, or what that's going to feel like, or what hurdles are going to come up, or what things you did not think were going to be an issue that turn out to be an issue. And so that was really something that was significant for us, was just the realization that knowing someone has a kid, or knowing that we're looking at a potentially blended family, doesn't mean that you have to be okay with everything that happens in that process, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. And I love that, because it's true. Of course, we know what you're signing up for, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, you said yes to this situation. There's so many things we say yes to, but life throws you curveballs, and there's things that you've never experienced before. So even though you've signed up for it, you're ready to take it on, doesn't mean that it's not going to be really difficult.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I've heard it so many times too. I mean, she's said it to me specifically way early on, that you signed up for this, but even when you talk to friends or, family members, I've heard it so many times, and every time I try to explain that I didn't know though.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And it's okay that I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't, because I don't know. I think I would have been scared of all those things, and I don't know if we would be where we are today. But as far as our relationship goes, that realization was huge. I think parenting and different parenting styles, I think the more I started to feel like a family, the more he felt like my son, because he very much is. He's my bonus son, but that's my son.
Yeah.
That was something that was a little bit difficult for us to navigate was, my wife thinks that this is the discipline that should happen. Jaden's biological mom thinks that's the same discipline that should happen, but what if I disagree? And so that was another thing that was hard on our relationship, was figuring out how to parent with so many different ideas. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah. And that's probably one of the biggest frustrations that people can have co-parenting, even when you get along, right? It's like, well, I think this, well, I think that, and you're all coming from a place of love and you want the best for your child. But oh my gosh, it is so frustrating. I feel like everyone listening has been there if you've co-parented, or even, because it's, even sometimes people experience this with their own partner. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, now we're parenting together. We didn't realize, sure, you signed up to be parents together, but you didn't realize how different you might have been in certain areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, she's parented this same kid since he was 2. 2 is how old he was when she came into his life, actually.
Oh, okay.
And so she's been parenting him for a lot more years than I have. So they have a kind of a mutual understanding of how she's going to act about certain things or react, and how he should act. And they have their own boundaries that they've spent years drawing, and these rules. And I didn't have that. And so coming in with a different view and trying to keep everything cohesive was really difficult, because we didn't want to confuse Jaden with different rules and different boundaries. But there's things that you come in and you feel very firmly on. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to not want to, it's impossible. I'm just going to say it's impossible to not want to change things or fix them.
Absolutely. We all do. It's like you think, if I could wave a magic wand, then this is how it would be, but it's not going to be that way. And the only thing you can control, right, is what you're doing in your home, how you feel, and your relationship with him.
Yes. And one thing that I've found myself saying over and over the last few years is like, oh, if I had met him sooner, it would not be this way. If I had met him sooner, we would not be dealing with this right now. And it's it's just those things that, I maybe would have done things differently than they did. And it's that mom part of me that wants to do the best for him and wishes I could do things my way sometimes, or wishes I could go back and change things and do it differently from the get-go. But that's just not the reality of it.
No, exactly. That's exactly it. I mean, there's so many things, there's so many, not necessarily what ifs, but if this were this way, or if I had done it this way, it would have been easier. But there's always going to be things that pop up. And there's so many other things that come into play too. Like you said, teenagers, as they become teens, and life, and what's happening, with friends, and what's happening at school. There's so many things that come into play, and all of those things, it's like the more you do it, the more time that goes by, you look back and you realize, I was so worried about, oh, if I had done it this way, it would have been better. And you realize none of that mattered. I used all this time worrying, and that actually didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
I look at that all the time, of little things that seem to be so gigantic, because they feel that way in the moment, because whenever there's, that unrest feeling, it's gigantic. And it's like, if only we did it this way, if only we had done that. But the thing is that that's what life is, right? You keep learning, things happen, and then you keep learning how to deal with it better the next time. But meanwhile, during all of that time, you're all growing and bonding, because you're going through, even though you're going through your different emotions, you're all still going through it together.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's important to be able to feel those feelings and be able to be okay with the fact that, okay, this feels really big. This is a lot. This is heavy. I feel like it should have gone this way, and that's not what happened. But I think you're right that it's also okay for that to turn out to be an insignificant thing, or to have acceptance of that situation so that you can move forward.
Yes, exactly.
which is a definite skill. I will say, I don't think that's something that comes naturally to everybody. I think it's something that has to be, at least for myself, because that's who I can speak for, but has had to be practiced and worked on. And it's a skill that I'm still building, is being able to accept and move forward.
Yes. What do you and your wife do together to make sure that you guys are good together, that that you stay connected, that the relationship is strong, and all of the good feelings stay intact?
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially because with any family, I feel like if our partnership is suffering, or our marriage is suffering, that everything else kind of suffers around it. So if we can, at the very least, keep that one aspect of our life together and positive and happy, then that makes everything okay. Even if there's other things happening, because like we said, life happens, it will all be okay at the end of the day because her and I are okay, right? So that is such an important piece of all of this. My wife and I actually stole a piece, and it's so silly. We stole a piece from Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, who are by no means perfect, but we had put out a video on YouTube, and I happened to watch it one day, and it happened to be shortly after we had met, and we had kind of some feelings to work through about the co-parenting situation, actually. And we watched that video together after I had watched it, because it just struck some chords with me. And one of the things he talked about was that they had rules, and they were not kind of rules. They were not guidelines. They were set rules that they do or don't do to each other. So for example, one of the rules, and it seems like it should be obvious, but is we don't cuss at each other. That's a rule. It's a hard rule. It does not matter how upset we are. It does not matter if I feel validated in saying that she's being an a-hole. I'm never going to say it. It's a hard rule we have. We just don't do it. And so there's those hard rules that we set up for ourselves. Like, hey, if one partner wants to talk about something, says, hey, we need to communicate about this, we do it. We're not going to ignore it or push it under the rug. That just is something. So if she brings something to me, even if I don't feel like it's something that we should be talking about right now, if she feels it's that important, we talk about it, and vice versa. So for us, that's what we've done to kind of set ourselves up for success, is just to have those firm, this is what we do and this is what we do not do. And it means that in hard times, when our feelings can get the better of us, they do so less often, because we have this set of rules that kind of keep us in place and keep us healthy.
I love that so much. It's like, these are non-negotiables. It's not like, yeah, it would be good if we were, spoke nicely to each other, weren't upset, and don't use any foul language. Instead of it being, no, absolutely not, under no condition, we don't do this. I mean, then you eliminate so much by having those firm rules. I love that. And it just shows each other how important you are to each other by having those rules. It's such a good exercise, actually, to do together as a couple, is to go through those and probably come up with those, what are the things that typically happen when we're upset? What are the things that feel out of control, and what can we do to make sure it doesn't get out of control?
Right. Absolutely. And I think too, it goes back to not being a mind reader. And there was things when we sat down and did this the first time, and every once in a while, something gets added, a rule gets added in. But from the get-go, when we sat and talked about it, there was things that she expressed that she wanted that I would have never even known. And just to give an example, money. She said, I am never okay with talking about financial struggles in front of our children. And I had never thought of it. I had never it had never crossed my mind. I didn't know that would be something that was so important to her, but she said, it's really important. I need that to be one of those non-negotiables. And so I was able, through a lot of these rules, but that one too specifically, to learn more about my wife, to grow closer with her. There's a lot of emotional intimacy in sharing those things and saying, this is something I need. There's a vulnerability to that too.
Absolutely. I love that. It's so true that when you are able to share like that, it's a different level of intimacy than the physical intimacy that brings, which will make the physical intimacy more powerful, but it's just, it brings you so closer. And the more that you have that, the stronger you are together when those challenges do come up. And I'm sure it sounds like you witness that, year after year as time goes by, being together and going through those things and making that part of your relationship so important. It feels like nothing, you've got this like fortress, nothing can take you down.
Yeah. And I think that's when you're at a place where that truly feels like the mentality, like this is our home and nothing can tear it apart. This is our family. And I know that no matter what in the world happens, that it's me and you and we will always be, then I think that there's such a security in that allows you to go through things, but less intensely. And it allows you to not have that extra fear or that extra worry. And co-parenting, being a step parent, all those things, they're tough. They're not easy. They're rewarding and they're wonderful. And, I'm very proud of my family, but they're not easy. And knowing my partner even better kind of alleviates a lot of those tough things, and the emotional intimacy we have alleviates a lot of those tough things. It makes everything better and it enhances our lives so much. So working proactively for that has just been a huge deal for us.
I love that so much. I mean, life is hard enough as it is. You never know what's going to be thrown. Look at this past year, what's going to be thrown at you that you're going to have to deal
Yes.
with.
That you never would have thought in a million years.
Right. So, with anything, being able to have that with each other is just so important. We say that all the time. And I think I try to like enforce that all the time with couples, because people want advice as if like something's going to just go away, do this and that problem goes away. Well, then something else is going to happen. And not even, to say they're all problems, but there's challenges, and they will continue to come up. And if you aren't, strong with each other, it's the type of things that can take you down. When you get super emotional or things feel out of control, those are the things that weaken you. And to be able to have each other to be so strong together, I've always, when anybody asks for advice, I'm like, always make your relationship the priority. Always, always, always.
Absolutely. And, it's, I think, important to note too that it's not something that just happens. It's not that some couples are just lucky and they get brought closer together and are able to go through those things. I think it's something that everybody truly, unanimously across the board, has to work on or make an effort towards.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I have a lot of good conversations about these things. So there is this scientific law, and it's actually the second law of thermodynamics. And to keep it really simple, it says that anything that is just sitting in its natural state over time starts to disintegrate into more and more chaos. So if you leave a car on a mountain and you just leave it there, it's not going to somehow magically over time start to get better, even though nothing's happening. It's going to start to rust, and it's going to start to grow things on it, and it's going to go into this state of chaos and disintegration. That just happens. And I think that's the same for our relationships, especially when it comes to things like this. If we just let things be and we put forth no effort and we don't proactively work towards, understanding and communication and all these things that are positive, it does naturally fall apart.
Yeah.
It just does. And I think that it's important when things are easy at the beginning, because they are. We talked about being in love and that happy feeling and everything's great, that's when you start working on it. And I think that that's something that I wish we had started on even earlier. It is to have communication about the things that were going to come up and to have built towards that instead of later on after it's already here working on it.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree. So besides your blended family, I normally we do this in the beginning of an episode, but I just went right into it.
We'll be backwards.
We're going backwards. Tell us about like what else you do, because I know this was kind of, you're like, this isn't normally what I'm talking about. Let's just get a little bit more insight into Melissa and like what else is going on in your world besides parenting, step parenting, wifing, all of that.
All of the things, because there are so many things, especially this last year, especially now. No, this is not my normal niche. And it's something that I'm so proud to be able to talk about and really grateful that you asked me to come on and do with you, Summer. So I just appreciate it so
Oh,
much.
I'm so grateful you're here.
Thank you. However, my identity and what I come on and talk about with people is typically fitness, actually.
Yeah, I've seen you doing squats with the baby on Instagram. It's
it,
so cute. I love it.
it happens every once in a while, okay? Whenever she wants to cooperate.
Yeah.
But no, and so I've actually held my personal training certification for 7 years now. I just hit my 7-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I could not believe it's been that long. It makes me feel much older than I am. and and so that's what I do. I'm a one-on-one coach. I am a lifestyle coach. I work a lot with postpartum moms and moms going through fertility, infertility, IVF, IUIs, all those women things that we go through. And so I do my coaching inquiries through my Instagram, which is just melissa.ray and a little underscore at the end. And so anybody who wants to find me there is more than welcome. I would love to interact with you and welcome you into my digital space. And then I am actually, Summer, launching my own podcast next week.
So exciting. I'm so excited.
So exciting. Oh my gosh, so nerve-wracking. It is not easy what you do on here.
It's not, you know what, it'll become easy. When you first start, it's kind of like, what do I do? But then you realize people, it's just conversating with good people.
It is. And I've been on numerous podcasts with numerous people and I always love it. And from this end, it feels so much easier, I think, because it's no pressure. I just answer the questions and talk about the things. But we're really excited. Myself and another coach who I've been working with and bodybuilding with for 10 years now is how long she's been doing it. And we've been together for about 6 years as a great team. We have come together. We're launching a podcast. It will be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts next Friday. It's called That Fitness Thing. Just That Fitness Thing. We have an Instagram. It's That Fitness Thing podcast. And we would just love any support, anybody who wants to listen. We're just going to talk about all the things, give you things that you can apply to your everyday life. And it should be a great time.
Well, we'll definitely have a link to it because by the time we're done recording and by the time this airs, it'll be out there. So we'll make sure that we have a link in the show notes, also to your Instagram, everything, Melissa.
Yay! I am so excited. Thank you. And yeah, anybody who wants to come on, I just love the village that the podcast has been able to create, that Instagram's been able to create. And so I'm excited to see who else we can welcome into that.
Yes. Well, and you're so much fun. I love following you. I love following your family. You're beautiful. You're funny. You're just a great energy. And I'm so grateful to have met you. The wonderful thing about Instagram, right? You meet people that are like totally hundreds of miles away from you, but you get to meet with them and connect. And I'm just so grateful to have connected with you both and your family and through you. And thank you so much for sharing your story, your challenges, your advice, and everything that you have with our audience, because it's so important. It's so valuable. And it's really inspiring. And I think more and more people need to hear that, because it's easy when you're challenged, like you can be in a blended family, to lose that hope or to want to throw in the towel. And then to hear, stories like yours, you go, okay, we got this, we can do it.
Yeah, you guys, it does get better. It can be so, so beautiful. Thank you so much for having me, Summer.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. And we like to say, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you love, and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't. See you next time.